folks, welcome back to Around the Yard. My name is Brent, and today we're going to look at the 2008 Case CX27B Zero Tail Swing. So I purchased this machine last year about this time, so this is kind of the 1 year review of my ownership of it. It's a 2008 model year, just like I said. That makes it 15 years old this year. When I purchased the machine, it had 1,314 hours. So 14 years old, 1314 divided by 14 is about 94 hours a year. So it didn't see a whole lot of use the first 14 years of its life. This year that I've had it, I've put on 45 and maybe 46 hours. So it's currently at about 1360. With that, I've done, I dug out a fuel oil tank on the side of the house. I dug a little mini pond out on the side of the garage. I did some dirt work and whatnot around the side of the garage. You guys saw an early video or maybe a clip of the boulder wall that we put in. So I did a lot of the delicate stuff rather than getting a sand shovel out and working up against the foundation. There was a bit of that, but not as much. The skid loader, you can only get so close with the bucket and the arm on this, and I've also got a flat bucket for kind of grading, a 16-inch grading bucket. I was able to get pretty darn close to the side of the garage and pull away the material. So this thing actually came in pretty handy for that. Like I said, we built a boulder wall, about 100 feet of boulders. The other thing we did, we took it over to my folks' place here earlier this fall, and we dug a borrow pit for black dirt, and then at the same time my dad had, later in the summer, excuse me, had taken down some driveway ash trees. So it kind of piles of trees or piles of logs, I guess, firewood logs, kind of staggered around his property. So we used this with the thumb and stacked everything up neatly, put it behind the shed, and we'll get to cutting that here this spring yet. But other things that this has done, we've dug out a couple of stumps. So we had an old birch tree in the front yard. We took that out. There's an ash tree in the back that was part of a fire pit. Was able to kind of find that and regrade that out. And then we got a handful of maple trees that were also dug out in the front yard, along with a black locust tree. So let's see what else. We planted 3 oak trees in the front yard, so that was positive. So yeah, we've had, quite a few projects with this over the last year. I've got a board here behind the camera, so I'm kind of reading off of that a little bit so I don't forget things. But basically, 45, 46 hours of use on this machine. Of that, I figured the stumps that we dug out would have been equivalent to renting this thing for a weekend. Probably put about 4 hours on the machine, and that was early on right after. So I bought this in February of last year. And so when the snow kind of disappeared in April, May, got this thing out and got it to work. So the stumps were kind of the first thing we did. So 4 hours, that's kind of heavy, but I was kind of learning the controls still and how to operate the thing and not tip it over. So, spent a weekend digging out stumps. 4 hours of time on the machine. That's not what you would have if you'd have rented it for a weekend, you would have gotten maybe 16 hours worth of use. At that time, I didn't have 16 hours worth of use for it. When we used it to do the fuel tank, that took about a weekend to dig out. Again, probably a 6-hour deal based on the 45 hours or so we put on it. The little mini pond by the garage, I got about a half an hour on that. That was pretty quick. Each bucket full out of this 16-inch bucket is roughly a wheelbarrow full, the standard wheelbarrow. So a couple cubic feet there. The big project obviously was the boulder wall and setting all the 800 to 1,000 pound stones. That I figured 12 to 16 hours. Basically that was an ongoing project for 2 or 3 weeks, along with grading around the building and whatnot. So as we were doing things back there, we were doing multiple tasks. So planting the trees, I did that with our daughter, and that was about an hour's worth of work to plant 3 trees. So 20 minutes a tree or something like that. Highly recommend. You guys are planting a lot of burlap trees that are roughly the size of a wheelbarrow. It'd be worth your time renting one of these, and it's basically two or three scoops, and clean up the hole, and drop the tree in, put the soil back, and you're ready to go again. Let's see, that kind of covers it. The other, the bulk of the hours on this thing, past the boulder wall and the grading, was really using it for firewood. That wasn't my intention when I bought this. I've got a laundry list still of things left to do around the property, but firewood was in the back of my mind as something that we could use it for, assuming I got the thumb on, which we did get installed here last year. So it's been kind of invaluable for picking up logs, sorting logs, setting stuff aside. So at any rate, just wanted to give you kind of the quick breakdown on this thing. Like I said, 2008, it's a Case CX27B. So it's a 2.7 ton machine, weighs about 5,500 pounds. It's about 60 inches wide, so it'll fit in either the tandem axle dump trailer that we have, that you guys have seen, that we loaded logs into it at my dad's place, or it'll fit on the deck over trailer, the same trailer that the skid loader is hauled on. So that's that. It's a zero tail swing machine. So as you can see, I've got the front cab is over here, front window is on this side. So it's turned almost 90 degrees. And then I've turned the boom arm, it's on the pivot, so it's up against the side of the wall here. So trying to take up as little space as possible. If I come over here, this counterweight is inside of the tracks. So there's a couple inches to spare here on the side of the track. So I know a lot of people are running the Kubotas and Bobcats and different things like that. Some of those are zero tail swings, some aren't. I just thought, for my purposes, wanting to get close to the buildings and different things, we've got a lot of tight areas around here. I thought the zero tail swing was kind of where I was looking. I was originally looking at the 17, 18 class machines, so the 1.7, 1.8 ton machines. And when I looked at those up close, they just didn't seem big enough. They would have done plenty of work, but they wouldn't have done the boulder wall very well. They wouldn't do a lot of grading. They'd be hit or miss on the firewood, I think. This thing could really hold its own picking up firewood. It's not as good as a 6-ton machine, but it does pretty good. It lifts way more than I can, or 2 people could. It doesn't do as much as the skid loader, but for a one-man operation, I think it's plenty good. How long am I going to keep this thing for? I don't know. I've got a loan on it right now through Case Industrial, which, if you're looking for used equipment, that's someplace I'd point you to. It was fairly reasonable rates, although rates have kind of gotten sideways and up here as of late. So, probably not the greatest time to be buying equipment. So I feel pretty lucky I got in while interest rates were down. I did kind of start doing a little bit of a calc here. If memory serves me right, I'm right now, with the 45 hours that I used this year, I'm right about $130 an hour of use based on what I put in to the loan. So, and I was figuring, I think about $500 a month is what I'm paying to have this thing. I think that 130 will come down, 1, as I put more hours on the machine a little bit, and 2, as I get closer to payoff. But for me, the ease of use of having it here is worth the 130 bucks an hour or so that I've used it. Especially, like I said, building the boulder wall and doing the grading and having it available for firewood. If I had to plan weekends around, you know, building that boulder wall or doing firewood or digging some trees in or digging a little pond or something like that, my luck is it would rain or we'd get snow or some other crazy thing would happen, and I'd have a machine rental and then not the time to use it. So it's really beneficial, I think, in my opinion, to own the machine. You could also lease a newer piece of equipment. When I looked at this, there again, this thing only had a little over 1,300 hours on it. The paperwork I have, it got a 1,000-hour service, you know, the month before I bought it, which may be a little late, but it was a rental machine out of a dealer. So the Case dealer here in town, they had it as a rental, or at least within their dealership network. And so it kind of bounced around the last 14 years or so, and then it finally aged out and it was time to get rid of it. So I feel pretty fortunate that it was, you know, 1,300 hours. It could have easily been, you know, 3,600 hours or 4,600 hours or something like that. So the fact is, I'm probably only going to use it 50, 60 hours a year, maybe 100 at most. It's got a 3 or 4 cylinder diesel. I run good quality fuel through it. I put the stabilizers in it. It gets greased every time it goes out, you know, pretty much. So I don't see this thing wearing out, just like the skid loader. That's a 2006 or 7, 8, something like that. It's got, you know, 850 hours on it or something like that. It's not a high hour machine. There again, we only put 50, 60 hours on it every year. It's probably never going to wear out. So that's what I'm kind of banking on with this thing is, you know, at the end of my term, when I have it paid off, you know, it's still going to be worth some money. It's probably going to have, if I had to guess, it's probably going to have 1,500, 1,600 hours on it. And that's nowhere near, you know, worn out for a machine like this. So tracks are in good condition. I've got a second bucket for it. I'm actually looking at a third bucket, which would be, excuse me, a little bit bigger. I would like to upgrade the lighting to LED, just so there's a little less draw, and then you can also wind up with some brighter light. The other thing is it's got hydraulics to the stick. Would kind of like to get a hammer or something like that for it. I've got a tar concrete-ish driveway that's in disrepair. It'd be nice to break that up. I know the skid loader would probably just tear it up if I just use the grapple bucket, but for some other more delicate spots, I think a hammer would be kind of handy. Not really interested in getting one, you know, full size for the skid loader, but for this thing, the control that you have and the ability to kind of place that where you want it is pretty darn handy. So at any rate, that's kind of the video for today. I just realized that, you know, I've had this thing about a year and wanted to get it out there of, you know, what my thoughts of it were, how I used it, how many hours I put on it. You know, a little bit for you guys, a lot for me, so that I have a record of this. But, you know, overall, I would say if you're looking at getting a mini excavator, definitely try out the used market. The biggest thing with any equipment purchase is figure on, you know, the machines are similar enough. You know, this is similar to a Kubota, similar to a Sani, similar to a Bobcat, similar to a Mustang or a Hyundai or whatever. You're really buying your dealer network. So where are you going to use it primarily, and who's the close dealer? So with this Case, the dealer network, they've got a pretty good dealer network here in Minnesota. You know, there's dealers, you know, as close as 20 miles or 10 miles away from me, all the way out into greater Minnesota, northern Iowa, Sioux Falls area, South Dakota. So anywhere that I'm likely to haul this thing in the state to use it for a project, there's a dealer network, or there's a dealer close by. And that's the same reason that I went with a Kubota lawn tractor. There's a similar dealer network here in Minnesota for Kubota. There's one in Faribault, there's one in Shakopee, there's one in Wilmer, there's one in Loretto, there's one in, I don't know, there's a handful more, plus Western Wisconsin and whatnot. So having those dealers close by, having parts available and factory parts, some of the stuff you can go after market with, some you can't. I'd like to buy from the dealers when it's possible, when it makes sense. For other things, yeah, like oil for the skid loader hydraulics, right? It takes, I think it's a 5W30 mix or something. Don't quote me on that, but the Case brand is $100 a jug, and you go to Napa and get the same jug for 20 bucks or 40 bucks, excuse me. So you can save some costs there. Oil's oil, right? But when it comes to filters and things like that, when it comes to filters for replacement items, you can't really beat the dealer. I mean, yeah, you can go online, hopefully you get lucky and you get the right part, but for me, it's worth putting in the factory replacements. So that's what I would suggest, but do your own diligence, research, that's the key really. What I did when I was looking to buy this, and the lawn tractor for that matter, was picking up the machinery trader books. They're sometimes available at like Advanced Auto Parts or O'Reilly's or Napa or any of those, or the gas station. They're kind of a free equipment book, whatever, it's kind of like the newspaper. And just peruse through that and see what you find, and at least get a ballpark idea of what the used machines are going for. And that's how I got to this. I was looking at new machines because I thought that was the only way I was going to be able to finance something, was buying new. And then when I talked to Case, they said, "Oh no, we can finance a used one. That's no problem." So that's what we did. So anyhow, I'm hoping to get back out in the firewood yard here. The last video you guys saw, the shed is kind of cracked and needs replacement. Those beams are shot. So the first job for this thing might be the tear down of that lean-to. So that'll be a fun one coming up, I hope. But right now we're in a melting freeze-thaw cycle here in Minnesota, and it's just it's glare ice everywhere. So it's not fun to walk on the driveway. The downside of the tracks is I'll get stuck on flat ground in the skid loader or in this thing. So we're gonna keep them in the shed here for the next couple weeks. But I got some other ideas here. We'll get another couple videos out for you guys, and got some ideas on the chainsaw, and then got another video coming up probably on PEX pipe. So stick around for that. I appreciate you watching. If you stuck around this long, please like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. Let me know what kind of equipment you guys have, or what kind of equipment you think is in your future. Let me know, what your manufacturer of choice is. Around here, it's Case and Kubota, but be curious what everybody else is using. So let me know, comments down below, and we'll catch you on the next one. In the meantime, enjoy your day around the yard.